The topic this morning is really misnamed. My reflections on Mother's Day are not beyond sentimentality. It really is beyond commercialism. I want to tell you a bit of the story and sort of invite you to do some speculation to build your own sermon from what I share. 1923. It was a candy makers convention in Chicago. She was about 60, and she looked like sort of a well-dressed rural school teacher. She did not have the garb or the flapper on, but she had the matron attire of an old maid, mostly in black with a little bit of purple trim. And she came into the floor of the meeting of the American Candy Makers Association, and she took the stage, or took the platform, and introduced herself to the people, and told them that they were all hypocrites and scalawags. Her name was Annie Jarvis, and she came on behalf of her mother, and she came on behalf of her creation, the work of her heart, to tell the candy makers of the country that they were money schemers making profit off of something that had been very sacred and important to her mother and herself. Annie Jarvis worked for about 6 years after her mother died, sending letters, promoting an idea of a Mother's Day. Now, you may have heard this story, but I may be like a little bit like Paul Harvey. There may be some things you don't know about this story. Annie Jarvis' mother was named Ann Jarvis. They were in Grafton, West Virginia. And Anna, the daughter, one of 5, watched her mother's life unfold as a child. And she watched her mother's dedication to the family, to the community, to her church, to her neighbors, and was struck with gratitude and admiration for this woman. Now, this is not one of these saccharine kind of stories. Anna was a tough bird, as she showed in Chicago, and she'll show later, 2 years later in 1925, doing a similar thing, of protesting the commercialization of Mother's Day. But anyway, as a child, she watched her mother. She watched her mother organize the Mother's Friendship Club. You got to remember Grafton, West Virginia. West Virginia was a divided state. There were families who sent their sons, sent their children to the war in blue and in gray. And the families were divided. Well, Ann Jarvis got together with her neighbors and organized a Mother's Club for a conversation and engagement and commiseration and decoration of the graves of their children who fought in that god-awful war. And later she would organize Mother's Work Day, which would be about engaging the community issues of sanitation and community health. So Anna Jarvis watched her mother, Ann Jarvis, engaged in a world of participation. She saw her mother sit up at night writing correspondence to peace groups around the country and around the world, promoting disarmament and peace in a world of hostility and war. So after Mother died, well, let me tell you more about Anna. Anna didn't stick at home with Mom. Mom kicked her out. Ann Jarvis said, "You're going to go to school." So she went down a few miles down in Virginia, and she went to the school that would be I forget the name of it now, Baldwin College, eventually. And she got some training in business, and she went on to Philadelphia, and she went on to New York, and she became a businesswoman in her own right, daughter did. She was an insurance person, worked in the office, and then was one of the early pioneers in advertising as a woman. So she was not someone who hung around Mother and just sort of drove her around and was her acolyte. She was a woman of the world. Well, when Mother got sick, she took her into her home, she nursed her, she died, and she decided she was going to remember her mother. And she was also going to do something very special and something very human. She was going to say to the world, y'all need to recognize what's going on in our midst. We are a community, and we have people engaged with both biological responsibilities and emotional responsibilities that relate to what it means to be healthy and whole in this world. And women and mothers are critical, and they're overlooked. They should be honored. They should be recognized. So she went about a campaign She'd been trained, she'd been involved in the commercial world, so she sort of knew how to do that. She wrote governors, she wrote state legislators, she wrote newspapers, she wrote magazines. Well, in about 6 or 7 short years, sure enough, Mother's Days had cropped up across the country. Every state had one. And in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson signed a proclamation designated the second Sunday of May as Mother's Day. Now, if you look at his language and you look at the history of Mother's Day, it's singular possessive. It's Mother's Day about your mother. It's an individual quotient. It's an individual concept. It's an individual invitation. For each of us to take a moment to recognize the gifts, the bequests, the place of our mother in our lives. Now, that's fraught with all kinds of danger, because images of Donna Reed and all that kind of stuff comes up, and frills and mothers that are out of fiction and romance. We're talking about Anna Jarvis having enough gumption as a liberated woman of her period to say to the world, mothers are important and my mother was special. So I want you to find something special about your mother, and as a recognition, I want you to take on that day a commemoration of her, recognition of her, and do something in her honor. Do something social active. Do something for the community. Do something in her spirit that she would want you to do. Well, her mother's favorite flower was a carnation. So when they had a memorial, sort of a kickoff for this Mother's Day back at the home church, Anna didn't even come. She was away. She was able to she sent a shipment, or ordered a shipment of carnations, white carnations. And she made the little statement that she was a writer, she was an ad person, so she knew how to do that. The white carnation represented purity and wholeness and holiness. And also the carnation was not a flower whose petals fell off. They clung even as they withered. And she said it's symbolic of mothers. Mothers really never let their children go. They're always a part of their lives. So later on, you got to admit, we human beings are something else. Later on, the florist in the 20s noticed that the white carnations ran out and nobody bought the red carnations. So the Florist Association came up with a gimmick. Well, if your mother's alive, you get to wear a red carnation, and if she's dead, you get to wear a white carnation. So sure enough, America's only real invention, marketing, took over Mother's Day. The point I'm trying to share with you is this story is based on a little bit of a romance, a daughter with her mother, a lot of recognition of the truth of the reality of the relationship of mothers in our lives. Okay, we have the scientific thing. The sperm fertilizes the egg. The egg is carried and is created and only available in the woman. The woman carries it, the egg, fertilized egg. It becomes a baby. It becomes a life, and it moves into life to take its job. All of it's about collaboration. All of it's about cooperation. All of it's about relationship. So if you back up from the romance, you back up from the commercialism, you back up from the sentimentality, it's about us recognizing something very honest about life. We're related, and it takes us all. The sperm cannot create the child. The egg is no good without being fertilized. So it comes around to a cycle of participation and involvement. Whether we see it in the basis term of sexual interaction or the romantic term of life, bequesting and bequeathing life, it's there for us. The mother is the symbol, but also the custodian. The mother is the vehicle, but also the metaphor. The mother is the reality in our midst that shows us how related we are, how obligated we are, how involved we need to be with one another. And Annie Jarvis's legacy and our legacy of Mother's Day is an opportunity to acknowledge that. Now, mothers come from a profile and characteristics of demonic to angelic. And if some of you in this room have had those on the demonic side, I stand with you. Not because Mother was much of a demon, she was about in the middle. She didn't know whether I was a plaything or a god, so it was somewhere between toy and divinity. And we worked it all out, and we did okay. And I honor her today for the grit she had and that she showed me. But I'm sympathetic and empathetic with folks who've not been engaged with a mother who loved them, who had to find that love somewhere else, who had to seek out and be alone in their loneliness without the understanding and the sympathy and the nourishment and the nurture that can come from a mother. Because the first thing a mother does is give unconditional love. And that can be a cheap phrase, unconditional love. But Mother did it right early on. She just saw me as something magical that she had produced. And she gave me something because I remember her with such fondness and with such gratitude. I hope you can do that with your mother. So if there's a need for you to be judgmental, please put that aside. Maybe be sympathetic and empathetic. You remember they were kids when they had us. By and large, they were kids when they had us. They were too young to know what they were doing. And they learned on the job as we learned to be human beings around them. It's just amazing we've done as well as we have, if you think about it. We had a long way to go. Annie Jarvis designated and got a community and a nation to move around the concept of a recognition of a simple truth. We are related. We are obligated. The best response we can have is gratitude and gratitude and being involved with the life that Mother would have wanted for us. Unitarian Universalism invites us to deal with truth. The truth is that our nourishment and nurture comes from many places, that mothers come in all forms. But those who reach out to us and lift us and say to us in a kind way, this is the way you can be in the world. You can be kind, you can be compassionate, you can be generous. And those qualities might not give you much return. You may not benefit from them as you see them, but they're there and you know them as a part of your integrity and a part of the character that you are. So mothers just don't always build us up. They can teach us. They can teach us to be patient. They can teach us to be generous. They can teach us to be involved. Unitarian Universalism deals with the simple truth that life is pretty empty without relations. And the mother's relationship with a child, the mothering relationships we can offer one another. And those qualities are they're not gender specific. They're available in gentleness. They're available in humor. They're available in patience. They're available in recognition and listening and seeing. Not so much the agenda that I have, but the personality and the product and the person that that you are, that we are engaged with. So happy Mother's Day, all you mothers. Don't matter whether you wear a white one or a red one. It's all about the sentiment. So my words about Mother's Day are pretty simple. And that is, it's beyond commercialism. It's about sentimentality always. It's about the sentiments we have, the appreciations we have, the gratitude we have for someone who gave us life. They didn't know what they were doing either. They were just learning the miracle that they experienced, and the morning sickness and all that good stuff, all that junk. Can you imagine just how many dirty diapers they? Well, we don't want to do that. It's all of it. It's every bit of it. And it's something that is bequeathed to us to recognize and understand and honor. May we do it today as we remember our moms. If they're not with us, light a candle on their behalf or say thank you. It might be good for your soul. The opportunity to be grateful. The opportunity to acknowledge relationship. The opportunity to express compassion. The opportunity for generosity. All of those things are ours because we're alive. And we're alive because of an experiment with our mothers and our fathers. And we're here not by any gift that we brought, not by any power that we had, but we are a gift of life and a gift of the universe. Those who carried us, those who provided our livelihood, our lives, our possibilities, let us be thankful and let us remember them today especially. And as you're driving home today from church, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to think of 3 words that would describe your mom. You don't have to tell me what they are, but just give you that discipline driving home. In your mind's eye, describe your mom with 3 words. It might be fun, and it might reveal some things to you.